It was posted on CNN's YouTube page on October 25th. Let's just say it didn't age well.
That's the idea President Donald Trump is pushing hard to his supporters, that the more than 7,000 people who comprise this latest so-called caravan through Central America are a pillaging horde of dangerous illegal immigrants on the verge of surging into the U.S. and your house.
Did Chris vet every single person? No. We don't know who's in the caravan. Not only did the Department of Homeland Security release a statement about the fact that there were criminals among those in the caravan, it also made it clear that people from at least 20 countries made up the caravan. Look, thousands of people literally stormed through Guatemala and Mexico to make it to the border to demand entrance into the U.S. It's not an idea, it's a fact, Chris. And President Trump didn't say they were all criminals, but to pretend that there aren't criminals infiltrating the caravan, that's just reckless.
The reality of the caravan is much more complex, I know you're shocked, than Donald Trump is letting on. So let's dig into it.
Sure, why not?
Okay, the caravan, essentially a large group of people making their way toward the U.S. border, is not a new thing. These annual marches are known as Via Crucis in Mexico and have come to serve as a sort of symbolic vehicle for people, mostly from Central America, to draw attention to the dire conditions from which they are fleeing in their home countries. Typically, people join and drop off these caravans in large numbers, which means that by the time the caravan gets anywhere close to the United States, it usually numbers in the hundreds, not the thousands.
Wrong. Thousands of migrants have already reached the border, and the people of Tijuana, Mexico aren't exactly welcoming them with open arms. Instead, some are protesting the caravan, and some Mexican people are even calling it an invasion.
Now, speaking of getting anywhere close to the United States, and this is important, the caravan is currently near the Mexico-Guatemala border. For you non-geography majors out there, that's more than 1,000 miles from the closest border crossing into the United States.
Well, I'm not a geography major, but thanks for that very insightful lecture. Go on.
To date, the caravan has been moving at about 20 miles a day, which is a lot. But if you do the math, that means the soonest the caravan could get to the U.S. border would be in 50 days.
So let's do the math. This video was released on October 25th. The first wave of migrants arrived around the 15th of November, and that was according to reports. So if my math is correct, that would be closer to 20 days, not 50. And how did they get here so fast if they were all supposedly walking? Well, a lot of them weren't walking. In fact, many of them were provided transportation on charter buses. How nice! My question is, who paid for the buses? Why isn't CNN asking that?
Let me show you something new that's developing here, and that is we've seen the 4,000 or 5,000 strong caravan walking to the border, but it seems now they're doing more of waiting for a ride to the border. This is the first time I have seen since I've been here an organized bus operation from the state of Oaxaca actually getting volunteer buses to put people and load on them and take them to their next location.
So what happens if and when the caravan does get here? Now, important sidebar, the if in that sentence is a real possibility. The journey is grueling and it can be dangerous depending on the route they take. Many people decide to simply settle somewhere along the way in Mexico. Others head back to their home countries. The idea that a large contingent of people in a caravan will definitely make it to the U.S. border sometime later this year is not a sure thing by any means.
By the way, in case you didn't know, Chris is CNN's politics reporter and editor-at-large, as in not an opinion person. Amazing, isn't it? CNN should get Chris out of his studio, have him, maybe talk to some Border Patrol officials. Maybe they could send him now so he can see the thousands of migrants with his own eyes.
So let's assume, for the sake of this argument, that 1,000 people who are part of the current caravan make it to the U.S. border. Whether they try to enter the country through a legal port of entry or try to make it in through illegal means, the end result, assuming they are detained if they try to enter illegally, is the same. They will likely claim asylum, insisting they are fleeing life-threatening conditions in their home country.
Exactly, Chris. Many of them are asking for asylum when they don't actually qualify for it. Why? Because they've learned how to game the system. Some of these migrants have admitted on camera that they're going to the U.S. for work. Economic migrants don't fall under the criteria of refugee status.
Now, if they pass an initial interview designed to assess how real their persecution claim actually is, they then get a court date to have a formal hearing for their claim of asylum. That court date is almost always months in the future. So some stay in detention centers during that wait. Others are let free, often wearing monitoring bracelets. Usually around 8 in 10 asylum seekers get past that first interview. Far fewer, though, see their asylum claims approved by the courts. And that's it. That's the full process. And it's complicated. It's also far less scary than Trump is working hard to make it out to be.
And Chris left out the part where some, 80% of these people released don't return to court for their deportation hearings. That is, they're free to roam the streets, never to be seen again. Welcome to America, my friends. If these asylum seekers had legitimate claims, they would stay in the first country they are safe in, i.e. Mexico. But guess what? Mexico is no bueno for them. They want into the U.S. because of the strong economy. I don't blame them, but there's a process. You can't just cut the line because you feel like it.
So why is he doing it then? Well, for political gain. Duh. Trump has weaponized fear of rampant illegal immigration among his supporters since he became a candidate for president back in 2015.
And why are so many Democratic politicians supporting this attack on our sovereignty? Well, for political gain. Duh. Democrats see illegal immigrants as potential new voters. They also attack anyone who believes in strong borders by labeling them racist. Yet leftists are rather quiet about Mexicans protesting the Central Americans. Are they racist too? Is it wrong for Mexicans to want to put Mexico first?
But here's the thing. Trump knows that even admitting he has no proof won't take away the political power of the caravan when it comes to motivating his base in advance of the 2018 midterms. That base believes deeply that immigration is the central issue facing our country. That, left unchecked, the way of life they have known will be erased. And so, they are ready and willing to believe whatever Trump tells them about the dangerous people in this caravan who are allegedly coming for them.
Condescending much? Chris, immigration, border security, this is a top priority, as it should be. You can't have a country without borders. And even if you remove the whole criminal aspect from the caravan, how does it help Americans? Unchecked illegal immigration takes jobs away from Americans and it lowers wages. You're not worried, Chris, because these people trying to come in aren't gunning for your job. And at what point do you stop letting people in? Also, what about the 12 to 30 million illegal immigrants already in the country? Some of them are hard workers. They've been here for 20, 30 years. They have homes. They have kids that are American citizens. Why don't we take a look at that first, help them get out of the shadows and transition into society once and for all before we start allowing all of these other new people in?
To be clear, very little of what Trump says about the caravan is actually borne out by the facts. The truth is more complicated and less obviously threatening. But Trump doesn't care about the truth here, and neither, seemingly, do his supporters. And unfortunately, that is the point.
Well, Chris, if anyone doesn't care about the truth, that would be you. And the truth really isn't that complicated if you're not pushing an open